Big reaction today to the bombshell news that Prince Andrew has been stripped of his title. He's so on the outs with the rest of the royal family. Word is they have disinvited him from the upcoming Christmas festivity.
What if I told you that Prince Andrew's humiliation isn't ending? It's only just beginning. For decades, he lived inside a fortress of inherited privilege so impenetrable that even scandal couldn't touch him. But today, something shifted, something irreversible. Because behind the palace walls, in corridors where decisions are whispered rather than announced, the royal family has made a choice so final, so damning, that it erases him entirely. Not gradually, not quietly, completely. And here's what makes this different from every other chapter in Andrew's collapse. This time, there is no recovery. There is no redemption arc waiting in the wings, because the institution that protected him for so long has decided he is no longer worth protecting. Do you think the palace knew this was coming long before the public did? Before we open the classified files of this royal scandal, before we reveal exactly how far this humiliation goes, hit like and subscribe, because what you're about to hear has been buried in palace protocols for weeks. This is the story they didn't want you to see.
It's a disgrace, I'll be completely honest. He's representing the country and he's meant to be the face of England. Is this what we represent? Is this what the people represent? No, it's a disgrace. So I'm happy he's got a strip on his titles, his royal titles as well.
On the surface, the story is simple. Prince Andrew, the Duke of York, has been systematically stripped of his titles. His royal style has been removed. His military honors have vanished. The palace released a statement. The media reported it, and the world moved on. But that's what they wanted you to see. The real story, the one circulating through Westminster corridors and whispered between palace advisors, is far darker. Because each removal, each public humiliation, each erasure from the record wasn't a spontaneous decision. It was orchestrated, calculated. The result of meetings held behind closed doors, where senior members of the royal family finally asked themselves a question they had been avoiding for years. How much longer can we allow this man to represent the crown? You have to understand the context. For over 60 years, Prince Andrew existed inside an ecosystem of automatic privilege. He was born into it, breathed it, never questioned it. The rules that applied to ordinary people, accountability, consequence, reputation management, they simply didn't apply to him. His status wasn't earned, it arrived with his birth certificate. But the world changed, and Andrew didn't. The Epstein scandal, the BBC Newsnight interview, the financial improprieties, the questions that never quite got answered. These weren't new problems. They were part of a pattern that the palace had successfully contained for years through silence, through deflection, through the sheer weight of institutional protection. Except the palace couldn't contain it anymore. And that's when the real reckoning began. Not because Andrew suddenly changed, not because new evidence emerged, but because the risk of continuing to protect him had become greater than the cost of abandoning him. The palace was protecting its own survival, not Andrew's dignity. Let me paint you a picture. The freedom of the City of London. It sounds quaint, doesn't it? Almost charming. A relic from medieval times when the honor literally granted you the right to drive sheep over London Bridge and carry a ceremonial sword. But this is not a footnote in Andrew's story. This is the final domino. Because here's what the palace never publicly acknowledged. Andrew inherited this title through patrimony. He didn't earn it. He didn't apply for it. He didn't stand before a committee or convince anyone of his worthiness. It simply passed to him because his father, Prince Philip, held it. It was automatic, it was guaranteed, it was untouchable, or at least it was supposed to be. But this is the part Buckingham Palace buried in procedural language. The City of London Corporation discovered they had a problem, a massive problem, because the deeper they looked into their own bylaws, the more they realized that an honor bestowed through family inheritance couldn't be removed through normal channels. There was no mechanism, no legal precedent, no rule book for erasing a royal from their records. So they had to create one. Do you think that discovery was an accident? Or the beginning of a coordinated palace operation to finally strip him of everything? But the truth that followed changed everything. Behind closed doors at the City of London Corporation, something unprecedented happened. Crisis meetings, emergency sessions, serious men and women responsible for maintaining one of the world's oldest civic honors, facing an existential question. How do we distance ourselves from Prince Andrew? The corporation made an extraordinary public statement. They said they were reviewing procedures. They said they were listening to concerns. They said they were carefully examining how honors could be removed. But here's what that corporate language really meant. They had already decided. They were simply creating the framework to justify a decision that had already been made. And here's the part that reveals the palace's hand. This didn't happen in isolation. These weren't independent civic leaders suddenly developing a conscience. This was coordinated pressure, whispered conversations, behind-the-scenes communications that we'll never fully see because they exist in the spaces between official records. The palace had sent a message. The message was clear: he has to go. Do you think the palace directly instructed the City of London Corporation, or did they simply make it understood that protection would no longer be offered? But the real revelation was still coming. For 40 years, the palace had shielded Andrew, through scandal after scandal, through financial impropriety, through relationships that raised questions, through a BBC interview so catastrophic that it should have ended his public life immediately. And yet, the palace protected him. Why? Because Andrew was family, because he was a royal, because the institution's survival depended on maintaining the fiction that the crown was above question, above reproach, above consequence. The palace was protecting an idea. Not a man, but that idea became toxic. And this is the moment that marks Andrew's total collapse, when King Charles made the formal decision that protection was over, when the palace calculated that keeping Andrew on the pedestal cost more than letting him fall, when the crown chose institutional survival over family loyalty. This wasn't mercy. This wasn't discipline. This was erasure. Do you think Charles was forced into this decision by public pressure? Or had the palace been plotting Andrew's removal for far longer? But the implications were staggering. Here's what the removal of the freedom of the City of London actually means. It's not just a title. It's not just an honor. It's the final symbol of belonging. Andrew is being erased from the institutions that once welcomed him. David Beckham has it. Richard Branson has it. Prince Philip had it. These men carry this honor as a mark of respect, of achievement, of belonging within Britain's historic power structure. Andrew inherited it. And now the city, the very financial center that once celebrated his presence, will remove his name from the record as if he never existed. But here's what's truly devastating. This honor is so ancient, so deeply embedded in tradition, that removing it sends a message the palace could never convey through words alone. It says, "You are so toxic, so damaging to our institution, that we are willing to overturn centuries of tradition just to erase you. We are willing to rewrite our own bylaws to make you disappear." And here's the question that should terrify Andrew. If they are willing to overturn that much tradition, what else are they willing to do? Strip away the layers of what Andrew has lost. His royal title, gone. His military honors, gone. His official role, gone. His access to palace resources, gone. His ceremonial positions, gone. And now the freedom of the City of London, about to be gone. There is nothing left, no redoubt, no fallback position, no ancient honor to cling to when the media moves on. Andrew has been systematically, methodically, completely erased from the institutional fabric of the British crown and the city itself. This isn't a setback, this is total collapse. But here's what makes this truly sinister. The palace is doing this with such precision, such calculated timing, that it feels less like justice and more like an institution protecting itself by sacrificing one of its own. They're not saving Andrew. They're saving the crown by making him a cautionary tale. Do you think this destruction was necessary or calculated to ensure Andrew never becomes a political problem? And the answer exists in the silence that follows. The impact of this humiliation extends far beyond Andrew himself. Inside the palace, there are whispers. Family members who once protected him are now publicly silent. The internal reckoning, the conversations between Charles, William, and Andrew, these happen behind closed doors and have left permanent fractures in the royal family's trust. Andrew is now a pariah inside his own institution, and his wife, Sarah Ferguson, has been forced into an impossible position. She's watching her husband be systematically erased. She's watching the woman she once was, a member of the inner circle, become a liability by association. The palace hasn't just punished Andrew, they've punished everyone connected to him. The media has moved from reporting his scandal to documenting his destruction. Each removal is front-page news, each lost honor is another headline, each public statement from the City of London Corporation is another confirmation that Andrew is finished. But the real damage runs deeper than headlines. Andrew's legacy is now permanently tainted. In 20 years and 50 years, his name will be synonymous with scandal, with entitlement, with the corruption of privilege. The institutions that once welcomed him have rewritten their histories to expunge him. He hasn't just fallen from grace, he's been erased from the record as if his presence was never legitimate to begin with. The palace didn't just remove his titles, they removed his place in history. And yet, silence remains the most unsettling answer of all. because the palace will never explain exactly when the decision was made. They will never acknowledge the meetings. They will never release the internal communications. They will never admit that protecting Andrew became politically impossible. They will simply move forward, and the public will move forward. And Andrew will fade into obscurity, stripped of titles, stripped of honor, stripped of the one thing privilege cannot recover: legitimacy. The institution has spoken. The message is absolute. After everything you've heard, after watching a man born into unimaginable privilege systematically erased from every institution that once defined him, which part shocked you the most and why? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because the conversation around what happened to Andrew and what it reveals about the palace is far from over. Stay tuned, because the classified files inside Buckingham Palace contain even darker secrets than this one. And the next royal revelation may expose something the palace has been hiding for far longer than anyone realizes. Hit like, subscribe, and join us next time when we open the files on the crown's most dangerous secrets.